Fantasy fanfiction. Martial arts online game. Get Wanjian to return to the clan at the beginning. Chapter 21. Mrs. Wang on the side finally interjected at this time. Zhenin, you have also learned the evil sword technique now. This thing is a disaster in my Lin family. Why don't you take this opportunity and give it to Chen Xiaoxia directly? Chen Li's eyes narrowed slightly. If so, it would be the best. Of course he knew that the authentic cassock of the evil sword technique was actually not stored in the old house in Xiangyang Lane like in the original book. If any player goes to explore, they will only eat a bunch of traps in the old house in the end, and die unexpectedly. And the cassock of the real evil swordsmanship was originally in the hands of Lin Zhenin at this time. He originally thought that he would have to wait until the Lin family was completely out of danger before he could get this swordsmanship secret book, but now it seems to be much easier. Lin Zhenin frowned slightly, and sighed. It's really not that I cherish my broom. The two young heroes help my Lin family like this. A mere swordsmanship is nothing. It's just that this thing harms others and oneself. It is really not suitable for the world and the Jianghu. Especially the young hero is my one benefactor. It makes Lin even more unbearable. Of course he couldn't bear it. If you want to practice this skill, you must first come from the palace. Passing on the family line is the most important thing. If you practice this sword technique, you will have to pay a high price, which is really unacceptable. But Chen Li is different. The reason why he is so obsessed with it is because he has the Wanjian Guizong, and he can completely ignore the prerequisites of this sword technique. But Chen Li couldn't speak bluntly, he could only laugh. Leader Lin, don't worry, I'm a stranger, nothing to worry about. But if it's not the authentic version, Chen is also afraid that things will be revealed. If the time comes, if the success falls short, I'm afraid. Lao Dao at the side didn't speak, but looked at Chen Li strangely. A martial art that can't be practiced, why is Chen working so hard? Could it be that he really wanted to leave the palace? Chen Li didn't bother to talk to this guy, and looked at Lin Zhenin calmly. Finally, this guy gritted his teeth and took out a roll of special things from his body. This is a somewhat worn-out red cassock. It can be seen on the cassock that the top and bottom are filled with words and pictures one by one, which is extremely miraculous. Open black lens bracket red cassock close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket task item close black lens bracket. Note: it can only be used after completing the task of the target. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket the target of public criticism close black lens bracket. Mission difficulty, rank 9. Bringing the quest item, red cassock, under the pursuit of all the players who accepted the main storyline quest of Swordsman, and the Qingcheng faction, the quest is completed for 12 hours. Close black lens bracket. Task reward, evil repelling swordsmanship, Jianghu prestige +5. Looking at the tasks that appeared in his task bar, Chen Li licked his lips, showing a fiery and excited smile. Lin Zhenin seemed to finally heave a sigh of relief, he whispered. The two young heroes can't repay this matter. There are still many treasures in my escort agency. If the two young heroes don't dislike it, you might as well come and get some. After doing this, the Fue escort agency also disappeared in smoke. Quote. Chen Li and Lao Dao looked at each other, and the two of them naturally would not refuse. Lao Dao is indeed a character who sees injustice, but he is not the kind of great and righteous saint. If he does not take it himself, it will be in vain for others' benefits, naturally will not refuse. But after all, this Fue escort is not a big force. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been forced to this point by this mere Qingcheng sect. In the treasure house of the Fue escort, he didn't see any real treasures. Chen Li wasn't too disappointed. Apart from taking a few gold ingots, he set his sights on a pile of gold ingots in the treasure house. Above swordsmanship. Wanjian Guizong needs countless stacks of swordsmanship to truly exert its power. In addition to high-level swordsmanship, he also needs low-level swordsmanship. Second-grade swordsmanship, serial 18 swords. First-grade swordsmanship, horizontal and vertical swordsmanship. Second-grade swordsmanship, blinking swordsmanship. The only one of the highest level is a third rank, howling sword art. They are the cheapest swordsmanship in the rivers and lakes, but they are not easy to get. Chen Li showed a smile. For the vast majority of people, martial arts is more about excellence than more. It is more useful to be good at one skill than to learn dozens of those messy sword skills. But for Chen Li, it is obviously not the case. The heaven-defying effect of Wanjian Guizong is only possible if you have mastered enough sword skills. The only thing that makes Chen Li feel a little regretful is that this Howling Wind sword art is actually a third-rank sword art. Otherwise, he can be just like the other 3 sword arts. Zong's Sword Master characteristic directly promoted to Zouchen. It directly raised the grade of Wanjian Guizong to the 3rd grade level. At that time, it will undoubtedly be easier to face the next situation again. But everything is fine. Under Lao Dao's more suspicious eyes, after Chen Li transformed this sword move into white light into himself, he finally smiled and said, "Okay, there is no delay. Let's start." A sound of fighting resounded from the compound of Fuwei Escort Bureau. Not long after, Chen Li's figure covered in blood appeared at the gate of Fuwei Escort Agency. Yu Kanghai got up quickly, but before he could make any movements, Chen Li turned around and ran away, holding the blood-stained red cassock. All the players were stunned. What the hell is this? Those who reacted quickly, such as the young man with sly eyebrows and mouse eyes beside Yu Kanghai, fixed his eyes on the red cassock in Chen Li's hand, quickly looked at Chong Tian Duxing, and then said anxiously to Yu Kanghai, "Master, the cassock in Chen Li's hand is the rare book of evil swordsmanship." At the same time, a system prompt sounded suddenly, confirming the fact that he had spoken. System announcement. Attention. The player, Chen Li, has drastically changed the development of the main storyline of Swordsman. The important plot item, Red Cassock, is in the hands of player, Chen Li. Kill the player Chen Li, and the Red Cassock will definitely drop. And within 24 hours, any player who accepts the main quest of Swordsman can check the coordinates of the player Chen Li through the quest. Close black lens bracket. There is only one thing that Chen Li regrets the most now. That is, the time is too short, too hasty, so I don't have time to just get a book of lightness exercises. Qinggung can be said to be the least type of martial arts in the world, and there may not be one of them. Although it is not as important as other martial arts, it is not even comparable to the most important internal strength. But sometimes, it's really impossible without this thing. Like now, the footsteps behind him, the shouts, and the sound of the fast-moving wind never stopped. Even if he doesn't look back, he can still guess what kind of virtue the pursuer behind him is almost red-eyed. Fortunately, Chen Li had the foresight to get a few bottles of energy recovery pills in the cellar of the Fuwei Escort, which can restore the inner strength and true energy, so that he will not be chased and intercepted by these red-eyed guys. Fortunately, in my last life, what stood out the most was actually the use of lightness kung fu. Although there is no lightness skill in this life, there are still some ways to use lightness and internal energy for lightness, which makes Chen Li's speed so fast that ordinary people can't match it. Now there are 2 situations Chen Li has to face together. First, when the player is chasing soldiers, he can know his location coordinates, and even infer the coordinates he is going to, but he cannot catch up with him. They can only be chased and intercepted. Second, Yu Kanghai personally came to chase him. He could catch up with him, but once he was thrown off, he couldn't know his position through player characteristics like other players. These 2 situations undoubtedly created a little bit of life for what seemed to be a dead end. On the other side, Feng Lai watched closely the figure of white who was fleeing quickly in Fuzhou City, his eyes spit fire. "So you are Chen Li. Give me my adventure." He attributed Chen Li's ability to behead Yu Renhao and Yu Renhao outside Yuhang City to the fortuitous encounter in Mizhuang. Chen Li glanced back at him, sneered, but didn't pay attention, and fixed his eyes on Yu Kanghai, the most prominent leader among the chasing crowd. Yu Kanghai's speed was much faster than his. But Chen Li is not in a hurry either. The child will die. The sound of the wind came from behind, and a sharp tingling sensation came straight to his back, and he could even feel the sharp edge of the sword on his back. Chen Li turned around, and at some point, the long sword in his hand appeared in his hand. Dangerously dodged the sword. At the same time, on the highest-end restaurant in Fuzhou City, a player faced the camera and said, "Hello everyone, I am a know-it-all, you can also call me by Xiaosheng. Everyone must be concerned about the Fue escort this time. Especially, Chen Li, the first master player in the Jianghu who beheaded a famous NPC show up. Now, Shaosheng is here in Fuzhou City, and what is under my feet, as you can see, is this Fuzhou City, and right now, what the hell? Quote. Originally, Bai Shaosheng, who was still able to hold back, uttered a swear word during the live broadcast. The matter of the Fue escort is now getting a lot of attention in the Jianghu, but not everyone can come. Therefore, once the broadcast of Bai Shaosheng, who is a little famous in himself, is still the first venue of the Fuzhou Fue escort, it is naturally indispensable. Audience. No one would say anything to Bai Shaosheng's outburst of foul language, just because the scene presented on the screen is too scary. On the empty street, a person is running crazily in front, and there are definitely thousands of people chasing behind him. The most important thing is that all of them are holding long swords and big knives, and there are even many Tangmen players throwing hidden weapons from time to time. It can be said that they are in the middle of a hail of bullets. And the most eye-catching one is Yu Kanghai, who is the leader. Compared with the other players, every time Yu Kanghai swings the long sword in his hand, it is like a strong wind blowing, and the sword energy can rippling for 10 feet. Where the sword energy touched, the ground and walls broke and collapsed like tofu. But it was such a terrifying attack. Those who ran away in front were like slippery loaches. No matter how dangerous the situation was, they were all dodged by them one by one. This Chen Li is really amazing. Does anyone know which faction this boss is a member of? Begging for +1. This, Jianghu, feels so special. There is no Krypton gold option, so the gap in strength can reach this point. Don't think about it, Jianghu is such a fair but unfair game. This Chen Li should have some kind of martial arts adventure. No matter how powerful he is, he probably failed this time, right? Then Yu Kanghai is an NPC of more than 30 levels. It's not something that players can conquer at this stage, he's just an all-around big boss. In fact, it is true. Even though Chen Li's body skills are not weaker than most of the players, and he still has the effect of returning to the clan with 10,000 swords, but at this time without lightness skills and mounts, it is indeed even more difficult to get rid of these people. Especially in the streets and alleys of Fuzhou City. Soon, Chen Li was stuck at the corner of an alley. It's over. No matter how powerful this boss Chen is, he can't get rid of the pursuit of NPCs like Yu Kanghai at this time. Even Bai Shaosheng, at this moment, is making a conclusion in front of the camera. Yu Kanghai also looked at Chen Li, who was standing still, and showed a ferocious smile. Boy, are you running? Chen Li's expression was neither happy nor sad. The more critical the situation was, the calmer his mood would be. This is a good habit left over from the previous life. Hee hee, are you awesome this time? Feng Lai's figure appeared beside Yu Kanghai. And there was another person standing beside Feng Lai at this time. Chong Tian Duxing looked at Chen Li with a smile. Brother Tai's strength is good. If you want to join our Chengtian association, please sweep your couch down to welcome you. Feng Lai glanced at Chong Tian lonely with some dissatisfaction. This guy is a smiling tiger. He has already cooperated with him, and even invited this Chen Li. The most important thing is to sweep the bed to greet him. Play a game, polite, and do you really think of yourself as an ancient person? Chen Li didn't pay attention to the few people, his eyes swept away for a while, and then he showed a smile. In an instant, the unsheathed Qingfeng sword burst into bright light. Yu Kanghai had sharp eyes and quick hands, so he wanted to block him with his sword. However, if ordinary people, even Dan Qingsheng, or Ding Jian and his like are here, this sword will be blocked directly. But the person who casts the sword is Chen Li, who possesses the Wanjian Guizong. With the blessing of the sword god ability, the speed of this sword is even twice as fast as that of Yu Kanghai. One word: electric sword. Turn into a real lightning. The sword light pierced through in an instant, piercing out like a thunderbolt in this turbulent crowd. A big hole was stabbed out of this overwhelming crowd. Bai Shaosheng, who had been watching all this with the video recorder in the game, grew his mouth wide, his eyes widened, and he forcibly failed to utter a word in his originally eloquent speech. Just keep repeating. What kind of sword technique is this? Sure enough. My great swordsmanship is the best in the world. The rest of the swordsmanship and palms are heresy and rubbish. My sword skills are the best in the world, where did I just get here? But there is one thing to say, this Chen Li is really too perverted. This sword, not to mention the lightning, turned many players, including Feng Lai, into a white light and returned to the resurrection point. It's so fast that even the naked eye can't catch it. The most important thing is the dazzling sword light. My Shaosheng is standing so high, it's fine, but at this moment, all the players on the long street are like headless chickens at this moment. A sword light was so stimulating that he lost his mobility. This battle. This is Chen Li's real-world fame. Especially Chong Tian Duxing beside him, he watched with his own eyes that a flash of lightning piercing Feng Lai who was next to him directly. At that moment, he seemed to really feel the taste of death. It's not the feeling of dying in the game, but the feeling of despair and suffocation that is really on the verge of death. This feeling made him feel like he couldn't even breathe, and his whole body trembled. Even with the burning pain in his eyes, he still looked at the tail flame of that sword light in disbelief, and quickly moved towards the outside of Fuzhou City. Chong Tian lonely clenched his fists tightly, and let out a slow breath. Is this the real charm of Zhonghu? Interesting. Dugu 9 swords. It seems that we need to speed up the progress. Chen Li is not the time to care about this. This is a fantastic opportunity. I'm afraid there will never be such a good opportunity again. The one-word electric sword seems powerful, but the main reason is that these guys cooperate well. He can't stay in Fuzhou City any longer. After the player dies, he will be resurrected from the nearest resurrection point. Therefore, as long as he is a little careless, those players may intercept him again at a turbulent speed. The best way is undoubtedly to leave Fuzhou City quickly and go to the wild. The cost of chasing players is much higher. But Chen Li now has another worry. Open black lens bracket Chen Li, how is your side? Close black lens bracket. Lao Dao, no problem, this Fue escort has been operating for several years. Fuzhou City also has a lot of backers reserved, don't worry. Where are you? Close black lens bracket. Chen Li, it's not over yet, we'll have a reconciliation when the time is up. Close black lens bracket. Lao Dao didn't continue to send news, and Chen Li didn't continue to wait. Now that the last thing to worry about is no problem, then naturally he can rest assured. Straight towards the outside of Fuzhou City. As long as the players' large forces are thrown away, then they will be able to focus all their attention on Yukanghai. That's right. From the beginning to the end, Chen Li's main goal was on Yukanghai. His level is indeed not high. Even if he had completed the task of defeating Ding Jian in the competition of swords, and rewarded a lot of experience, but at this time he was only at the 14th level. Compared with Yukanghai, who is more than 30 levels away, the difference is so big, it seems that I don't know how much it is. But the player's level is different from the level between NPCs. The level of the player is a constraint of the realm. As long as you can defeat monsters of the same level and gain experience, the level will always increase. Unless you are stuck on those big bottlenecks, there are no special circumstances that you can't break through. Therefore, although the strength represented by the level is indeed very representative, it does not really mean that the strength is at this level. And the NPC's level, in addition to the realm, also has the system's judgment on its strength. Yukanghai's strength is only at level 30. If it was placed in the last and later generations, in the spoken language of the players, it would be only a third-rate level. Level 40 and above are second-rate, level 50 is first-rate, and level 60 is innate, so the difference is huge. Even the registration of the list of people is below the innate level. One can imagine that this seems to have a huge gap in the level, and the gap between them is really not as big as imagined. On the contrary, after level 60, the strength of NPCs and the gap between levels will really improve. Even the level is higher than the NPC, but there are many cases where they are still not opponents. Most importantly, there is another crucial confidence that makes Chen Li dare to leapfrog the battle. Splashing ink and hemp swordsmanship, 6th grade. The 7th level, 4100 5200. Dan Qingsheng is the pinnacle of swordplay. Each of these dozens of sword moves has a killing effect, each move has a change, and they are gathered into one, which is extremely complicated. There are a total of White Rainbow Piercing the Sun, Tengjiao Rising Phoenix, Spring Wind Yangliu, Yulong Falling Off the Cliff, left and right mutual boss, Pingsha Loyan, several ultimate moves, and you can understand them as the number increases. Close black lens bracket. Sword parry ability plus 100%. Sword speed and power plus 140%. After each move is used, the power of the next move can be increased by 15%. It can be stacked 10 times in total. Close black lens bracket. Baihong Guanri. Among countless changes, the first move contains a sword with killing intent, the chance of killing plus 50%. Vital attack plus 100%. Close black lens bracket. Tengjiao Kifeng. A sword that goes up and slashes, the chance of knocking away the opponent's weapon is plus 20%. And there is a chance to fly it into the air. Close black lens bracket. Spring Breeze Willow. Fast 3 swords, dodge effect plus 40%. Close black lens bracket. Yulong Falling Cliff. A retreating sword, using retreat as an advance, knockback effect plus 30%. Sword power speed plus 200%. Close black lens bracket. The 7th level of Splashing Ink and Hemp Swordsmanship. This 6th grade swordsmanship, relying on the effect of the Sword Master, in a short period of time, combined with Dan Qing's new moves, has made the swordsmanship breakthrough to this level. And Chen Li still reserves a full potential of more than 10,000. Needless to say what this represents. He had obtained those low-level swordsmanship books from the Fuwei escort before, and under the effect of the Sword Master, he had directly reached the Zouchen level. As for my Wanjian Guizong, I only need a total of 5 Zouchen-level swordsmanship to reach the 3rd rank. In addition to the original 1-character electric sword, there were a total of 3 low-level swordsmanship that can directly reach Zouchen in Fuwei escort. Only the last move of swordsmanship is needed to directly reach the realm of Zouchen. That is, this Splashing Ink and Hemp swordsmanship. Right now, Yu Kanghai frowned as he looked at Chen Li, who was running away from Fuzhou City towards the nameless wilderness. This kid's swordsmanship was so high that it was beyond his expectation. But Yu Kanghai is not in a hurry. He can feel that although this kid named Chen Li has good swordsmanship, the rest of his martial arts seem to be mediocre. Outside the city of Wilderness Avenue, it is only a matter of time to catch up with it. At that time, old and new grudges will be settled together. A gloomy look flashed across Yu Kanghai's eyes, and under this gloominess, there was more greed like a jackal. Exercising evil swordsmanship, this is the biggest purpose of his trip. The speed of the two seems to be getting faster and faster. It can be said that there are very few players who can obtain lightness skills at this stage. Even if there are so few lucky ones, it is impossible for their internal strength to be as strong as these two people. With their internal strength unsustainable, they can only watch the two figures run farther and farther away. With the wind blowing under his feet and the smoke and dust filling the air, Chen Li didn't care where he went, all his attention was on his attribute list. Yu Kanghai's figure slowly approached again. This in itself was a tug of war of running away. It's just that this time, no one used their strength to give Chen Li the sword skill and left. And this time, Chen Li didn't plan to leave either. Even when Yu Kanghai was only 10 feet away from him, he still stood still. Yu Kanghai was taken aback for a moment, then looked over Chen Li's body, and only then saw the cliff behind him. Dead end. Yu Kanghai finally laughed out loud. Boy, keep running. Why don't you run away? Today, this is where your bones are buried. Chen Li smiled slightly, without the slightest bit of timidity, but also said the same words. Today, this is where your bones are buried. Yu Kanghai was taken aback for a moment, and then he smiled even worse, almost crying out. Ha ha ha. Kid, do you think that after a few tricks with the old man in Fuzhou City, you were really the old man's opponent? Sitting in the sky and watching the sky, you don't know the heights of the sky and the earth. Today I will let you know how powerful my Qingcheng faction is. On the Song Wen sword, there seemed to be gusts of condensed and turning sword energy. The Song Feng sword technique is a martial art of the Qingcheng school. Although the grade is not high, it has been immersed in Yu Kanghai's hands for decades, and it has reached the point of proficiency. Chen Li didn't say much. Splashing Ink and Hemp swordsmanship uses the long sword in his hand as a medium, and uses it at a terrifying speed and power. Just when he swung it, Yu Kanghai's pupils suddenly shrank from the sword energy wrapped around the blade. The corner of Chen Li's mouth was raised, revealing a cold and faint smile. At this moment, he finally fully understands how powerful this Wanjian Guizhong's ability is, and Wanjian Guizhong, perhaps his current swordsmanship realm, is far from reaching the final, returning to the sect. But just accumulating the tyranny of the 10,000 swords realm is enough to make Chen Li horrified. Wanjian returns to the sect. Internal strength, swordsmanship. Grade, 3rd grade, 5/10. Realm, special martial arts, no cultivation realm. Description: returning 10,000 swords to the sect is the highest level of swordsmanship. Once you use 10,000 swords, you are like a servant meeting the master, like worshipping a god. The level and power can be gradually improved with the number of sword skills acquired. Close black lens bracket. Attributes: root +3, body +3, strength +3, concentration +3, comprehension +3, internal strength +300. Close black lens bracket. Characteristic: sword master. All sword techniques, any grade, ignore all learning requirements. You can understand it directly. Any swordsmanship whose grade is lower than that of Wanjian Chaozong can be directly promoted to Zochin. Swordsmanship training speed plus 500%. Potential required is reduced by 50%. But you can't practice other types of external martial arts, and the potential required for the rest of the internal exercises is plus 500%. Close black lens bracket. Sword God. All sword techniques, any grade, all effects are doubled in power. Kai consumption reduced by 50%. Every time you master a sword technique to achieve Zochin, the power and effect of all sword techniques will be increased by 2%. Current extra bonus, 10%. The 5-dimensional attribute of internal strength passively increased by 3 points. This increase is naturally not a big one, and it is even worse than ordinary middle-grade internal strength. But after Wanjian Chaozong was promoted to the 3rd rank, there is no doubt that a new special ability has been added again. Jian Zong, Jian Qi increase plus 50%. Every time a sword technique is comprehended to the state of Zochin, according to the level of the sword technique, the upper limit of one's own internal strength plus 100 to 500 points. Every time you comprehend a swordsmanship of the Jushui level or above to the state of Zochin, your own 5-dimensional attributes will be permanently plus 5 points. Current additional bonus, 800 points of internal force. Zhangzong. Accumulate the momentum of thousands of swords. This ability, in terms of combat power, is far inferior to the huge bonus that the previous sword god gave Chen Li. But it made Chen Li lack the most important shortcoming: lack of internal strength, and 5-dimensional attributes. The importance of these two goes without saying. The only thing that made Chen Li a little helpless was that to improve this 5-dimensional attribute, he needed a unique swordsmanship. But no matter what, with the latest edition of this sword sect, Chen Li also has plenty of confidence and the qualifications to face the aggressive Yu Kanghai at this time. The sword energy runs across, like the setting sun on a long river, between horizontal and vertical, there is an unparalleled momentum. Splashing ink and hemp swordsmanship is only a middle-grade swordsmanship in the Zhonghu. Although it is not high-grade, it has the bonus of Chen Li Wanjian's return to the sect. The power that any swordsmanship can display is far beyond that. Above its original owner. Not to mention the 6th-grade swordsmanship that has now reached the state of Zochin. Compared with Yu Kanghai at this time, his sword energy is so powerful. His swordsmanship is fast. The madness of his sword. There is still victory. Yu Kanghai was shocked just by the first fight. He did keep his hands back before. Before the Fue escort, he did not use his full strength. After all, the world is dangerous, and it is always right to keep a hand of cards. But now, although he can't say that he has used all his strength, he has definitely exerted his full strength. But this young boy in front of him suppressed him to death. Under the sword energy rushing into the night, there is not much power to fight back, so he can only defend passively. How can this be? Yu Kanghai felt a little anxious, and wanted to take a look back, but with the two of them fleeing desperately just now, they were already far away from Fuzhou City. Not the chance. It's just that I don't give Yu Kanghai a chance to think too much. Although this splashing ink and hemp swordsmanship is not as sharp as the one-character electric sword, the most important thing is that its sword moves are cumbersome, which makes people have nothing to do with themselves. Under such a sword force, even if Yu Kanghai wanted to get rid of him, it would be impossible in a short time. There was a smile on the corner of Chen Li's mouth. Boy, what kind of sword technique are you doing? Splashing ink and wrapping hemp swordsmanship is not of high grade, but now in Chen Li's hands it is really terrifying. It was so frightening that even Yu Kanghai felt like a small boat in the boundless waves in this interlocking swordsmanship, swaying rapidly with the wind and waves, as if he would be hit by a huge wave in the next second, to crumbs in this tempest. Chen Li didn't give him the chance at all, and didn't even say a word. This kind of swordsmanship, the most important thing is to go all out, and then decline 3 times to exhaust the truth, he naturally understands. This is the best chance to kill Yu Kanghai. Boy, this is your courting death. In just less than a cup of tea, the offensive positions of both sides have been instantly reversed. Yu Kanghai, who was incomparably ferocious before, now seems to have become a little sheep who is powerless to resist under the violent wind and rain. Yu Kanghai's expression suddenly turned extremely ferocious. He took out several steel nails directly from his bosom, each of which was as thick as an ordinary person's finger. After a little counting, there are as many as 9 pieces. 9 dozen green characters. Chen Li's pupils shrank, but a cold light flashed in them. This concealed weapon technique, Songfeng swordsmanship and that heart-shattering palm are the bottom of the box kung fu of Yu Kanghai. It's a pity that, logically speaking, among the hidden weapon techniques of the Qingcheng school, in addition to the 9 dozen green characters, there is also a hidden weapon technique of the city character 18 broken. The two are combined into one, and its power can reach the power of the 9th grade hidden weapon technique. However, this city character 18 broken has been lost for countless years, and it is also one of the most difficult sect tasks for players of the Qingcheng sect. But even without the city character 18 broken, the power of the green character 9 dozen is beyond ordinary comparison, otherwise, Yu Kanghai would not have thrown it out as a trump card. But, isn't this an opportunity for me? Chen Li's eyes are dim. Ordinary players use martial arts to fight, and at the very beginning, every move is based on this skill pattern. Even if this kind has unique skills, at most it is just an ordinary master. Wanting to go further is undoubtedly a fool's dream. Only by being flexible and making the best use of the situation can you truly exert your greatest strength. Just like Chao Feng, the current leader of the Northern Beggars Gang, Chao Feng is ranked 15th on the local list. But its realm level is the lowest among the top 20 of all land rankings. What Chao Feng is really good at is his incomparable talent for fighting and killing. The strength in actual combat is far above its realm level. It's too late to say it. 9 huge steel nails called Thunderbolt came straight towards Chen Li's vital gates. Chen Li has no intention of avoiding it at all. His actual combat might not be as good as Chao Feng's, but he definitely wouldn't be any worse. This Qingzi 9 dozens is indeed the method that Yu Kanghai has been brewing for a long time, but is it not Chen Li's same method to break the situation? In an instant, Chen Li's whole body seemed to be shrouded in light, and his figure quickly turned to the left, and the sword light collided with the huge steel nail that was thrown. With the sound of dang, sparks splashed everywhere, but it couldn't cover up the brilliance of the suddenly rising sword glow. This sword, it's like a galaxy pouring backwards. Silver-white sword light is invincible in this air. Yu Kanghai was taken aback. He seemed to have never imagined that the Chen Li in front of him would be able to break apart his deadly Qing Zuju, and he could also instantly change his moves from splashing ink and hemp swordsmanship to an even faster one. The one-word electric sword. The electric light is sharp, and the blood is particularly eye-catching at this moment. -14,510. Blood red's numbers floated up, but the terrifying numbers didn't make Chen Li fluctuate in the slightest. This is a must-kill sword. Above the blood-gushing head, Yu Kanghai's astonishment seemed to be still in his eyes. He may not be able to imagine in the end why this sword is so fast. So neat. Blood splattered, the blade of the sword was bleeding. Chen Li put the sword into the sheath, and his body didn't move, just looking at some players who finally arrived not far away. On this unnamed cliff outside Fuzhou City, the green field is shining brightly under the dazzling sunlight. All the late players looked at the fallen corpse in horror. The blood stained the surrounding vegetation scarlet, and Chen Li, who put his sword back and stood in front of the corpse with a smile on his face. No one dares to step forward. Player, Chen Li, kill the only NPC, Yu Kanghai. Zhonghu Prestige +2. Close black lens bracket. The head of the Qingcheng faction, Yu Kanghai, has fallen, and will become a fixed pattern in the Qingcheng faction. It will not affect the disciples of the Qingcheng school to accept the task of learning martial arts. Close black lens bracket. It's just 2 pieces of news, and the world channel has been blown up again. Quote exclamation mark. What the hell is this? Yu Kanghai is dead. Isn't that an NPC at the head level of the Qingcheng faction? Why did he die in the hands of the players at this stage? Isn't this too unreasonable? What the hell is the master's fixed mode? Didn't you read the notes? If the head of a sect that can be joined by a player dies in the outside world, or after the plot is killed, he cannot leave the hall of the sect. Although he retains the memory consciousness, he has completely become a tool man. All the people in Fuzhou City, since they can't catch up with Chen Li's players nowadays, they just waited for such a terrifying news that can be called earth-shattering. Anti-kill. Only Yu Kanghai was able to catch up with that Chen Li, but now, he was killed instead. Even Feng Lai, who was resurrected from the resurrection point and finally dragged past the seriously injured state, was stunned at this moment. He stared blankly at the system announcement that popped up. But the fact is so, whether it is true or not, it is not up to him to admit it. Especially when Chen Li stood in front of the hill with a sword at the end, wearing a white robe with 2 bright red spots blooming on his chest, like plum blossoms in falling snow. And the video of Yu Kanghai's short body falling down next to him completely dispelled the last bit of luck in everyone's hearts. It also completely declared that this first ever grand event in Zhonghu ended in an unacceptable form. Even Yu Kanghai couldn't get back the evil sword manual from Chen Li, so what about these players? He couldn't even catch up with him, let alone regain the evil sword technique in his hands. In fact, not many people pay much attention to this evil sword technique. After all, it can be seen but cannot be learned. In a game, no one will cut their own sword because of a martial arts that cannot be learned. This is something that most men cannot accept. At this time, Chen Li really didn't have the mind to care about these things. The harvest this time far exceeded his imagination. After continuing to walk towards the mountains and forests, completely getting rid of the players who wanted to follow up to see if Chen Li was at the end of his battle, Chen Li finally saw what he had gained this time. Killing Yu Kanghai gave him a huge amount of experience, and made his level go directly from level 14 to level 17. And the most important thing is the thing in his hand. Compared to Yu Kanghai's 2 apprentices, this Yu Kanghai is indeed the head of the sect, and he is extremely generous. Open black lens bracket Songfeng swordsmanship 6th grade swordsmanship close black lens bracket. Qingcheng's unique art, like the strength of the pine, the swiftness of the wind, pays attention to speed and strength, and uses the dexterous swordsmanship. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket learning requirements, movement greater than 35. Strength greater than 28. The 6th grade swordsmanship is similar to my splashing ink and hemp swordsmanship, except that the latter is a kind of swordsmanship with complicated moves and continuous movements, while this Songfeng swordsmanship is light and sharp, as fast as the wind the quick sword. Needless to say, this thing needs to be kept well. Open black lens bracket Qing Zi Juda 6th grade hidden weapon technique close black lens bracket. Qingcheng's secret art, using the unique weapon, Thunderbolt, with different hidden weapons. Combined with Qingcheng's unique hidden weapon technique, City Character 18 breaks, it can display the power of 9th grade hidden weapon martial arts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket learning requirements, movement greater than 32, concentration greater than 30 close black lens bracket. Chen Li didn't know if it was only after the head level NPC beheaded that this kind of explosion rate would occur, because he had never beheaded such an existing figure in his previous life. Therefore, he originally thought that it was unprecedented to be able to explode these 2 exercises, but there is another thing. Crane Ju Jushao Divine Art 7th grade internal strength. Secrets of the Qingcheng school and the unique skills of the town school. It is so powerful that no one in the past generations of the Qingcheng school has practiced it well, even Yu Kanghai is just getting started. The cultivation requirements are extremely high. Close black lens bracket. Learning requirements. Body technique greater than 45, root bone greater than 45, comprehension greater than 35, concentration greater than 30. 7th grade internal strength. This is already the top grade internal strength in the Zhonghu, and the internal strength is the most valuable martial art among all martial arts. It is also the most important foundation for a Zhonghu person. This Qingcheng faction actually has such a secret treasure, even in the previous life, Chen Li had never heard of it. It's a pity, for me, it's still a worthless chicken rib. Thinking of this, Chen Li put it back into his backpack in a dispirited mood, preparing to use it to exchange swordsmanship of the same level in the future. At the same time, a reminder came from a flying pigeon. Lao Dao, quick batch. Close black lens bracket. Obviously, this guy has also seen the system prompt. Chen Li, it's just luck. This Yu Kanghai is still difficult enough. What do you say? Close black lens bracket. Lao Dao, no problem, now I have left Fuzhou City with the Lin family. As long as I settle down, after 24 hours, this task will be considered complete. Not to mention, those Qingcheng disciples blocking the way really have 2 skills, but they are not our opponents. Close black lens bracket. Chen Li showed a smile. He is still assured of Lao Dao's strength. Chen Li, did you gain anything? Close black lens bracket. Lao Dao, hey, let's talk about it later. Close black lens bracket. Seeing what this guy means, there is really something to gain. Chen Li raised his eyebrows, and was about to answer the question again, when suddenly, a somewhat familiar voice sounded in his ears. Little brother. Little brother. Chen Li was startled. Quickly looked towards the source of the sound. I don't know when, in this deserted forest, under a huge rock in front, there is a figure lying on his back. This is a man in his 40s, wearing an ordinary linen robe, but there is a pool of blood flowing under him. On his elbows and thighs, there is a smear of bright red, and even a terrifying injury that can be seen deep in the bone. The man's face was extremely ugly, and the face that should have been a little simple and honest looked abnormally hideous because of the pain. This is a completely strange face. But Chen Li frowned slightly, he could feel a special sense of familiarity in the man in front of him. Before he could think too much, the man struggled a little and showed a smile. Hee, little brother. You seem to be from the rivers and lakes. I don't know if you have any healing medicines. I am a hunter from a mountain village nearby. He went hunting in the mountains and accidentally fell down the hillside. Hunter. Chen Li raised his eyebrows slightly, and looked at this man. Judging from his appearance, he seemed to be a hunter indeed. But Chen Li always felt a little weird, mainly because this guy gave him a very special feeling. Especially this guy's voice gave him a special sense of familiarity. Very familiar. Chen Li stood still, looking at this guy calmly. Soon he noticed something was wrong. The palm of this fellow is completely different from the exposed neck and the yellow-black on the face. The 2 fingers slightly protruding from the sleeves are like creamy white jade, but they are not the delicate look of a woman, but a kind of natural beauty, a feeling of. This is a pair of unparalleled hands. He had seen such hands before, and had seen them countless times. Coupled with this very familiar voice, a flash of lightning flashed in Chen Li's mind, and the identity of the person in front of him was suddenly revealed. A playful smile flashed in Chen Li's eyes, he really didn't expect to meet this guy so quickly. Sikong reaching for the stars. The king of thieves in Legendary, Lu Zhaofeng's best friend, the guy who ranked 77th on the list just because of his stealing skills and light work. Chen Li had a lot to do with this guy in his last life. Even the closest time to his own unique knowledge, it was related to this fellow. It's just that Chen Li was still missing that time. He didn't get Sikong's unique light skill of picking stars, star-picking step, but instead learned the unique thaumaturgy, Miao Shu Kong Kong, from this guy. Having said that, if it wasn't for this ingenuity, I am afraid that Chen Li would not have been able to obtain the later sword orders. But she never wanted to live a new life, and unexpectedly met this guy so early. Why did this guy appear in this wild place where birds don't lay eggs? No matter how much Sikong thought about it, he never thought that Chen Li had already seen through his identity at this time, and he, who was unparalleled in the world in disguise, naturally would not have thought of what happened to Chen Li. Little brother. Little brother. Seeing Chen Li lost in thought, he hastily smiled and continued. Why is Sikong's disguise technique unparalleled in the world? In addition to disguise, this guy will also change his personality because of the person he disguises. This is a born actor. The title of Immortal Thief with Thousand Faces is really not for nothing. Compared with Pirates of Holy White Jade Soup and Pirates of Handsome Chu Lushong, this Sikong is even more unpredictable. Orion, Chen Li said with a slight smile. If it's a hunter, why don't you have a bow and arrow, prey, and a short knife? Sikong was taken aback for a moment. Chen Li in front of him looked like a young man. He thought he was just a fledgling young Zhonghu. How could he still have such acumen? He didn't panic, and said bluntly. What did the little brother say? I fell from that hillside, and these things must have been lost long ago. Chen Li sneered. He didn't have any intention of taking advantage of others, not to mention that Sikong had a lot of cards for picking stars, and although he was angry with this guy many times in his last life, he had to said, this Sikong star picker is very interesting, and they also have a good friendship. Chen Li was not in a hurry, and walked slowly across from this guy, squatted down, tilted his head slightly, and just watched Sikong reach for the stars. Seeing Sikong reaching for the stars, he felt a little nervous, and wondered in his heart, did he encounter a mental illness? He forced himself up with a smile, and said helplessly, what do you mean, little brother? Chen Li smiled and said, does it hurt? He slightly touched Sikong's wound with the scabbard in his hand. Sikong took a deep breath and cursed. You mother! Is your kid sick? Chen Li is also excited. Your mother is in so much pain, with so much blood coming out, her face is not pale at all. With such a disguise technique, you are still a hunter. Do you think I am a fool? As soon as these words came out, Sikong Zhaoxing, who grinned in pain, was also taken aback. His disguise technique is indeed unparalleled, but he would not have considered such things in advance. Who the hell are you? Chen Li continued to tease this fellow. Sikong seemed to be discouraged all of a sudden, but soon, this simple and honest appearance changed into another one. Little brother really has good eyesight. It's really Lu who is abrupt. It's just that you have to pay more attention when you are walking in the rivers and lakes. Friends, don't blame me. I met this brother when I went to Lu Zhaofeng. The corners of Chen Li's eyes twitched slightly. As if seeing the disbelief in Chen Li's eyes, Sikong Zhaoxing quickly explained. Doesn't my friend believe it? Just look at the pair of fingers below, there is a consonant finger in legendary, have you ever heard of it? Chen Li nodded. Really? I heard that Examen Chushui wants your pair of fingers, why don't I cut them off and give them to Wanmei Villa, compared to Examen Chushui who can teach me 2 sword moves maybe. Hey, my friend, what are you doing? Examen Chushui is Lu's best friend. If you save me, for our sake, wouldn't it be easier to let him teach you? Why do you have to do this? Seeing that Sikong picked up the stars, Chen Li didn't seem to be joking, so he quickly continued. I, Lu Zhaofeng, have countless friends in the world, so what is Examen Chushui? I even know Sikong Zhaoxing. When the time comes, let him teach you a few tricks, isn't it much better than Examen Chushui? Chen Li is a little speechless, this guy is too shameless, Yu Sikong is only in the 70th or 80th place on the list, and Examen Chushui has been in the top 20 or even the top 10 for a long time. He didn't bother to continue arguing with this guy, raised his eyebrows and said. Sikong Zhaoxing, what are you doing in this barren mountain where birds don't lay eggs? The man was taken aback for a moment, as if he had seen a ghost, but he soon came back to his senses. Looking at Chen Li's appearance, he obviously knew that he had already been exposed. He was still a little unbelievable. You recognize me. Sikong reaching for the stars has +20 favorability towards you. Current favorability, 20, friendly. This guy has a weird personality. Chen Li made a bet with him in his last life. If he could recognize him among the people he met in the next period of time, then he would be considered a loser. The conditions are up to you. It's a pity that Chen Li had just met this guy by chance at that time, so he really didn't know him, and this guy's disguise was indeed flawless, so Chen Li still lost. But this guy has a personality, that is, anyone who can recognize his disguise is considered this guy's friend. Chen Li said with a smile. This barren mountain, how could Lu Zhaofeng appear here? As he spoke, he threw out a bottle of golden sore medicine. Sikong was taken aback for a while, Looking at the golden sore medicine in his hand, he was really hesitant for a while, but he still firmly denied. There are so many things you don't know about Liu Shaoji, he can do anything. Chen Li saw Sikong's hesitation, took the golden sore medicine, sprinkled some on his previous wound, and then threw it to Sikong again. Are you relieved this time? Sikong Jiaxing was taken aback again, but this time he nodded. Sikong's favorability towards you is +20, and the current favorability is 40 close. Seeing this guy grinning again and putting on the medicine bandage, Chen Li was a little funny. In his last life, this guy gave him the impression of being rebellious and cynical. Is there such a deflated time today? With your lightness skills, there are still people in the world who can hurt you. Could it be that you offended someone who is on the list? Chen Li asked curiously. It seems that because of the previous actions, Sikong Jiaxing has some trust and friendship with him. Taking advantage of the injury, he moved his body a little, and then spit out bitter curses. Don't mention it. Grandpa, I have suffered a big loss and been tricked by others. Chen Li looked at this fellow strangely. With his ability, he could still be played by others. Didn't you hear this guy say it in your last life? But that's right, with this brat's temperament, I'm afraid he wouldn't tell anyone about this embarrassing thing unless he saw it with his own eyes. Grandpa, I have worked so hard to find a treasure map. I came to this ghostly place where birds don't lay eggs in the barren mountains and ridges you mentioned to dig for treasures. I almost died in that ghostly place. I didn't say anything. Made such a musty. Chen Li looked at the object that this guy took out from his arms. It was a little broken wooden box. Even some places are already hairy, obviously it has existed for a very long time. Seeing that Sikong had no other intentions to reach the stars, Chen Li still took the object, and carefully opened the broken wooden box that was somewhat broken and had a strange smell. Inside the wooden box, there was something lying quietly. Chen Li was taken aback. It looked like a scroll. Compared to this dilapidated box, the paper of this scroll was made of unknown material, but there was no trace of dilapidated oxidation. This thing. Sikong Jiaxing seemed to see Chen Li's doubts. After all, no matter how you look at it, this thing doesn't look like a worthless thing. But I have to say that Chen Li is quite familiar with Sikong's star-seeking vision. This guy's exploration of those treasures is definitely extraordinary. Chen Li didn't hesitate anymore, and opened the scroll directly. A picture scroll half as tall as a human appeared in front of Chen Li. His grandpa's worked so hard that he almost put his life on it, thinking it was a rare treasure, a magical weapon, or even some peerless martial arts. It turned out to be so low level, it wasn't even an antique. Broken painting. Grandpa didn't even get a single copper coin. Apparently, Sikong's resentment towards him reached an unimaginable level, and in the end, he grinned and groaned for a long time because he pulled the wound vigorously. Chen Li ignored this guy and completely focused on the picture in front of him. This is indeed a very poor picture scroll. Compared with those handed-down works, there is a difference of 108,000 miles, but it is also about 97,000 miles. Compared with those works of real masters, the technique seems to be good, but there is a little less harmonious artistic conception. And it seems to be broken. But Chen Li can also see what the painting is about. Very simple. On the scroll is a big river. At the end of the big river, there is the blazing sun of gold, and there are hundreds of fish swimming in that direction. It's just that on the picture scroll where the sun shines, there is a smear of dirty ink, which destroys the structure of the whole picture. Other than that, it's gone. There is no inscription, no date, not even a signature, as if it is a random graffiti done by others unintentionally. Open black lens bracket. A damaged painting. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Miscellaneous. Close black lens bracket. A mediocre painting seems to be useless except for the good material, but if you observe it over time, it may be possible to improve your painting level a little bit. Of course, it's just a little bit. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the system notes, the corners of Chen Li's mouth twitched, and it was only then that he fully understood why Sikong was so furious. Seemingly seeing Chen Li's expression, Sikong Jiaxing seemed to have finally found an outlet, and said helplessly. Grandpa's first life's fame is completely ruined. Give this shit to you. It's the reward for helping me this time. Speaking of this, Sikong Jiaxing gave Chen Li a wink. Don't talk about it. Chen Li didn't refuse either. He always felt that this painting seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember how familiar it was for a while. Put it in the bag, but before he could speak, a long laugh sounded from above. Haha, it's too late. You monkey spirit, you will have a day of failure. I don't know when, on the top of the cliff, a head poked out, looking down at the scene below. This person only showed one head, but with the neatly groomed beard like 2 eyebrows, one can recognize the origin of this person. 4 eyebrows, Lu Zhaofeng. Sikong was not surprised at all, because Lu Zhaofeng was called by him. The only and most trusted friend of the most famous thief in the world is Lu Zhaofeng. Lu Zhaofeng may have many friends like Sikong Jiaxing, Examen Kuishui, Yi Gucheng, Wamanlu. But Sikong only has one friend like Lu Zhaofeng for reaching the stars. With a leap, Lu Zhaofeng came in front of the 2 from the cliff, and he cupped his hands towards Chen Li. This little brother should be the little brother Chen Liken who caused an uproar in Fuzhou City, right? Chen Li was taken aback. He really didn't expect that Lu Zhaofeng knew him. Lu Zhaofeng chuckled. Passing through Fuzhou, I wanted to see the excitement. Brother Chen's swordsmanship is pretty good. Good swordsmanship. A man who has met Examen Chushui and Yi Gucheng, and is also a friend of the 2 of them, can call himself good swordsmanship, which is undoubtedly the greatest recognition. Can you 2 stop talking, Lu Shaoji? Grandpa knows that you like to make friends, but can you look at me? Lu Zhaofeng was not angry when facing Sikong Jiaxing's vulgar words, and didn't care that the blood stained a silk robe that was obviously expensive, and directly carried Sikong Jiaxing on his back. Fortunately, I'm near here, otherwise, you monkey spirit can still be here with my grandfather. Let's go. It happens that Examen Chushui is over there. What? That ice lump is there too. You, Lu Shaoji, grandpa won't go. If you don't want to go, you can stay here and feed the wolves. Lu Zhaofeng didn't bother to pay attention to Sikong who was howling behind him, and looked back at Chen Li, saying, Brother Chen, if you don't mind, why don't you come with me? Chen Li naturally wished for it, and nodded with a smile. This is a long journey, plus the previous desperate pursuit, naturally no players came to chase again. Although there is still a short period of time before the 24 hours, Chen Li has not seen any uninvited guests on this strange road. Brother Chen's swordsmanship is good, but this lightness kung fu is really not interesting. Lu Zhaofeng looked at Chen Li who was following behind, smiled and said. Chen Li was also a little helpless. The lightness kung fu of Lu Zhaofeng and Sikong reaching the stars was even considered rare in the whole world. How can he, who has no lightness kung fu at all, be able to compare with it? Fortunately, it didn't take long, and after a short while, a handsome villa hidden in the mountains appeared in front of my eyes. Sikong Jiaxing exclaimed, What a magnificent villa, Lu Shaoji, where did you get the money? Lu Zhaofeng shook his head, It's not mine, it's brother Examen's. Sikong was suspicious for a while. You said, that ice lump, who doesn't do anything every day, is nothing more than Wanmei Villa, and there is another one here in Lingnan. Why does the money seem to be endless? Grandmas, it's really popular dead man. If you talk nonsense again, I'll cut off your noisy tongue. A voice suddenly appeared, like ice water in 3 or 9 days, extremely cold. At some point, there was a figure standing in front of the villa, dressed in white clothes like snow, with long hair falling on the shoulders and back, holding a long black sword with a sheath in front of him. Examen Fushui. Or you can use another title. Sword God. Although in Zhonghu, the name Examen Chushui is a bit exaggerated, but no matter how you say it, the man in white with black hair hanging down in front of him is the first swordsman he has seen since entering the Zhonghu. It should also be the #1 powerhouse. Its head has not been covered, and only the level 83 level that players can see can already explain the gold content of this sword god. Examen Chushui glanced at Chen Li. Of course, Chen Li could feel that his main gaze was on the sword on his back. But Examen Chushui didn't say much. He was brought here by Lu Zhaofeng, so he naturally has enough trust in Lu Zhaofeng. The 3 walked into the huge manor, and threw Sikong Jiaxing on the bed. Lu Zhaofeng took out a blood-red pill from his bosom, and stuffed it directly into Sikong's mouth. Ouch! Lu Shaoji, what the hell is this? Why does it smell like body odor? Lu Zhaofeng slapped this fellow directly. Shaolin's secret bone-generating pill. If you still want to keep your Qigong foundation, don't talk nonsense here. Hurry up and adjust your breath. Sikong Jiaxing also knew how powerful it was, so he quickly closed his eyes and refined the medicinal power. Chen Li followed into the room, and when Examen Chushui and Lu Zhaofeng didn't notice, he took out the blood-red cassock. 24 hours finally passed slowly, and the blood-red cassock finally got rid of the prefix of the mission item, and its true colors appeared in front of my eyes. Evil-resisting swordsmanship, 9th grade swordsmanship. The unique sword technique comprehended from the unique technique, sunflower treasure. Once used, the speed is like a ghost, and the swordsmanship is tricky, weird and fierce, and it is impossible to guard against. Used together with sunflower treasure, it can display the power of unique swordsmanship. Close black lens bracket. Study requirements. From the palace, body skills greater than 40, comprehension greater than 25. Players can learn martial arts directly, or they can study the sword technique itself. Chen Li is not in a hurry to try to learn, so he keeps looking. Although this sword technique has been criticized, there is no doubt that it is profound. I don't know when, a figure appeared behind him, and finally said, "This sword technique is quite interesting." Chen Li's sinking mind was suddenly awakened. He quickly turned his head to look at the source of the sound. Examen Chushui blinked. Even this icy sword god was a little embarrassed and said, "Brother, don't blame me, I just saw it by accident, and I didn't get a glimpse of the whole picture, I just saw the general outline." No matter at any time, peeking at other people's martial arts secret books is considered a big taboo in the world. Even if Examen Chushui is not very familiar with the world, he is a little ashamed of it. Chen Li smiled. "It's okay, I just learned about this sword technique, if you are interested, you can watch it together." Examen Fushui's favorability towards you +20. Current favorability, 20, friendly. Examen Chushui shook his head. He is a sincere and trustworthy person. He is actually not interested in spying on swordsmanship other than his own swordsmanship. He is just more interested in the same swordsmanship and swordsman's games. This sword technique doesn't fit me, and from my point of view, this sword technique has great flaws. It's extremely evil, and it's called exercising evil, but it is itself the most evil thing. Even if you want to practice, you must have a deformed body. If you want to take a look, that's fine. If you want to practice forcefully, I'm afraid you will harm others and yourself, so you have to think carefully. Quote. He is obviously persuading with good intentions. However, Chen Li has the Wanjian Gui Zong, so he can ignore his request and directly simulate the operation of Wanjian Gui Zong's true energy in his body, and even the power it exerts is several times greater. This mysterious swordsmanship from the sword world may also be related to the internal strength of the swordsmanship. The mystery and power of Wanjian Guizong are indeed unpredictable. But Chen Li still nodded. I know it. Examen Chushui is not a person who likes to meddle in other people's affairs, so he nodded and stopped talking. He looked at Lu Zhaofeng over there. What's the matter? Lu Zhaofeng looked at Sikong Jiaxing, who had slowly recovered after his face faded and changed his appearance, and then he breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. This guy went to look for some treasure again, but he almost got caught. Fortunately, I am near Fuzhou, otherwise, his lightness kung fu would have dropped by at least 30%. Examen Chushui pondered for a while, and then slowly uttered, "It's a pity." Sikong Jiaxing, with his eyes closed, asked curiously, "What a pity?" Examen Chushui shook his head. "It's a pity that you, Lu Zhaofeng, are near Fuzhou." Sikong Jiaxing narrowed his eyes and looked at Examen Chushui. "Ice lump, what do you mean?" Examen Chushui didn't bother to pay attention to him, turned around and left the house. Chen Li looked interesting. Examen Chushui is the only one who can make Sikong reach the stars. Lu Zhaofeng rolled his eyes at him. "Heal your wounds well." He gave Chen Li a wink, and Chen Li didn't stay for a long time, and followed him out of the house. Examen Chushui sat in front of the stone table in the courtyard, closed his eyes and quietly stroked the long sword in his hand. Wherever he was, it seemed that no matter how vibrant the land was, it became extremely cold. And the existence of Lu Zhaofeng dilutes this feeling. The relationship between the two is quite familiar, and they chatted with him, and Chen Li followed beside him, but he also heard many strange things from Lu Zhaofeng's mouth. Chen Li sounded interesting, but his thoughts of getting some benefits from these two people faded away, as if he was really chatting with a few friends who had a good relationship and were considered speculative. By the way, have you heard before that some time ago, the leader of the Western cult, Jade Rakshasa in Legendary, died suddenly, and the entire Western cult turned into a mess because of the position of the leader. Let the Ming cult, which has always been under the Western regions and was suppressed before, take advantage of the situation. The huge Western demonic sect is about to fall apart. Quote. Speaking of this, Lu Xiaofeng seemed to shake his head with some emotion. Chen Li raised his brows. This guy hasn't been involved in the plot of the Silver Hook Casino yet. Examen Chushui's expression didn't seem to change from the beginning to the end. He shook his head and didn't say much. Always like this. But neither Lu Xiaofeng nor Chen Li saw Examen Chushui holding the long sword in his arms, gently flicking his hands, and stopped for a moment. Listening to the chatting between the two, most of the time it was Lu Xiaofeng chattering here alone, and Examen Chushui occasionally answered a few words. Finally, Chen Li couldn't hold back, and lightly touched the evil sword manual in his hand. You have learned the 9th grade sword art, evil resisting sword art. Chen Li's pupils shrank. Sure enough. The effect of 10,000 swords returning to the sect is really against the sky. It turns out that the ability to learn any sword technique and ignore the learning requirements is really so perverted. Evil resisting swordsmanship, 9th grade swordsmanship. The first weight, 0.003. The unique sword technique comprehended from the unique technique, sunflower treasure. Once used, the speed is like a ghost, and the swordsmanship is tricky, weird and fierce, and it is impossible to guard against. Used together with sunflower treasure, it can display the power of unique swordsmanship. Close black lens bracket. Shot speed and power plus 50%. There is no true murderous and evil spirit leaked in the shot. When the sword is released, it comes with a special, ghost, effect. Close black lens bracket. Soul chasing style. Consume internal energy and true energy according to the distance. The speed and power increase by 200% minus 500%. Kill rate plus 100%. If you kill with one sword, your own internal energy consumption will be refunded. Close black lens bracket. Feeling the power of this evil sword technique, even though Chen Li had been prepared for a long time, he still mentioned it in his heart, which can be said to be extremely horrifying. It's just that he was terrified in his heart, but the two chatting looked at him in surprise. Examen Chushui's eyes were always cold, but this time there was also a mix of surprise. The special sword intent that suddenly emerged from Chen Li in front of him was tricky and weird. It seems to be very different from the evil sword technique just now. But what's the matter? This sword intent, could it be that this kid has mastered this sword technique in such a short period of time, and he has become so good at it? It's just that both of them are smart people, and neither of them said anything more. In the rivers and lakes, everyone has everyone's secrets. Until Chen Li opened his eyes, neither of them said much, they just chatted for a few words and then left. At this moment, a news of a flying pigeon passing a letter suddenly sounded. Lao Dao, Chen when will we meet again? Where are you? Ma Lu. Close black lens bracket. Chen Li, it is estimated that the reconciliation will be postponed for a while, so you wait for me in Fuzhou City first. Close black lens bracket. Lao Dao, what the hell? Where are you? Close black lens bracket. Chen Li didn't hide anything either. Open black lens bracket. Chen Li, in a zhuangzi, when we met Examen Kuishui, Lu Xiaofeng and Sikong became stars. Close black lens bracket. Old knife. Close black lens bracket. Old knife. Close black lens bracket. Old knife. Close black lens bracket. Directly and subjectively blocking Lao Dao's feed transmission of letters, Chen Li ignored this fellow's yelling. This fellow worshipped Tiandao Song's house, and is he still here? For myself, Chen Li felt that his knowledge of this guy's shamelessness had reached a new level. He didn't bother to pay attention to this guy. Lu Xiaofeng's elixir was indeed miraculous. Just for a while, Sikong was able to walk on the ground. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.